So Bill O'Reilly and I talked about this last hour, and as he alluded to, it's not a majority. It's not even like 25% of the country that is celebrating the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was assassinated walking out of a hotel in New York City last week by, allegedly, this guy, Luigi Mangione, who has been arrested and happens to be the son of a very prominent family outside of the Baltimore, Maryland area. He went to the University of Pennsylvania after going to a high-end Tony private school there in the Maryland area. So this is a guy who seemed to have life by the short hairs. He seemed to really have everything going his way, and something sent him off the deep end. Some of his friends or former friends are speculating it was this back surgery he underwent that didn't allow him to have any kind of a love life, and, then you get caught up in corners of the internet and kind of go crazy. No one really knows at this point. It's all speculation. But the reaction has been from a segment of the population, one of, this guy is your modern-day Robin Hood. Now, that narrative doesn't work anymore because turns out he's from a very prominent family with more money than Brian Thompson ever had. So he's not Robin Hood. That's not who he is. He may have been motivated by Robin Hood-esque ideas of him being, the great fighter against the big bad insurance companies, but it's not really who he is. But that has not stopped some people from celebrating him on social media, including a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. This professor is being slammed on social media for sharing on her social media stories on her Instagram and TikToks praising Luigi Mangione. Let me give you one example of this professor who is singing along to a famous song from Les Mis. So she posts that on TikTok, and she puts the caption up there, "Never been prouder to be a professor at Penn," with that song playing in the background as she's doing a selfie video of herself. And that song from Les Mis is obviously famous for being a, fight the man, fight the revolution kind of a song. It's been used by so-called revolutionaries for, 45 years since the song came out with the musical. And she also posted videos and pictures of Luigi Mangione with memes saying, he's doing things that other people aren't willing to do. And I saw one, it was not a very nice thing to say about Italians. I will say that much as well. She had this post up that said the following: "Man engages in beautiful Italian-American tradition of taking matters into his own hands." Well, as an Italian-American, I find that offensive. But that's not the point. It is not clear on if this professor, whose name I will give you here, Julia Alenksheveva, I'm pretty sure I got that right. I said it 5 times in a row before I got on air, has been fired. All she's done is post a quasi-apology on social media. That's a pretty lame apology. She apologized. It was the old, "I apologize if you were offended by this" kind of a thing. She wrote, "Late last night, I posted a TikTok as well as several stories on my Instagram. These were completely insensitive and inappropriate, and I retract them wholly." Okay, you don't celebrate the death of a healthcare CEO or anybody and then be like, "Yeah, sorry, that was out of line." It's not like it was a bad joke. You literally had multiple posts celebrating what a Penn student did in murdering a father and husband, basically in broad daylight, who was an innocent victim. She adds here, "I do not condone violence, and I am genuinely regretful of any harm the posts cause." That's the classic, "I'm doing this because I think I have to. I'm regretful for any harm the posts may have caused." So the bigger question is this: what is going on our college campuses that leads professors like this to feel like they can go out there on social media and celebrate the assassination of an individual who they don't like because of capitalism or something like that. And what do we do about it, more importantly? She might lose her job, I don't know. And if she does lose her job, that's great. She should lose her job. But it's not going to change the inherent problem that exists in these higher education institutions. It's just not. Whether it's the Ivy Leagues, whether it's the public Ivies like UCLA, we've seen the Hamas simping on campuses since October 7th of last year. To a lesser extent, KU has it, Mizzou has it, K-State to a lesser extent than that. But you get it. It's prevalent on most of these college campuses around the country. And if you're someone who has sent your kid to college here recently, or you're thinking about sending your kid to college, or your kid's on the verge of going to college, or in college right now, these things I've got to imagine are top of mind for you. Heck, they are for me. And my kids are 6'3" and 8 months. One just started crawling 2 days ago, and I think about it once in a while. It's not something I obsess over, but I do think about it. You spend 18 years trying to build a value system for your kids, and it can be wiped out in 4 years by people who you're paying money that you have saved to indoctrinate them. It's insane when you think about it. Well, J.D. Vance may have an answer here. And it's something that is not going to be the big sexy topic that gets talked about in Washington, D.C. next month. It's going to be obviously immigration and taxes and energy policy and things like that. But J.D. Vance has tried to do this since he got into the Senate. The elimination of tax exemptions for large corporate mergers. And another thing that he has tried to do when it comes to institutions in particular is try to basically tax the endowments of our nation's most elite institutions. As a senator, J.D. Vance introduced College Endowment Accountability Act, which would raise the excise tax on endowment net investment income from 1.4% to 35% for secular private colleges and universities with at least $10 billion in assets under management. That would basically be every Ivy League institution. As of fiscal year 2022, endowments subject to the tax hold a combined $270 billion in assets under management, and they include Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Princeton, MIT, Penn, Northwestern, Columbia, Washington University in St. Louis, Duke, and Vanderbilt. And amazingly, I know it's not going to surprise you, Senate Democrats blocked this legislation. It's amazing. Democrats love taxes until suddenly you're taxing entities that they think help them politically. And they firmly believe that these higher education institutions, these Ivy Leagues, well, they pump out good little liberals who then hopefully run the country and run the world. That's how it works. That's their blueprint. So all of a sudden, they're low tax people. It's funny. I've never seen them not like taxes, especially taxing supposedly billionaire operations, corporations. That's effectively what these universities are. And now all of a sudden they're like, no, we don't want to tax. No, we don't like taxes. I thought you guys loved taxes. What happened? If you actually want to help get to the bottom of some of this, this is one way to go about doing it. It's once again not going to be the thing that changes our higher education, but it is definitely a step in the right direction because a lot of these donations, I will add, come from overseas. They're coming from, in some cases, foreign governments who are trying to exercise influence on our nation's highest levels of education. J.D. Vance made the following statement when this bill was rejected last year by the Senate. How is it that universities that should be responsive to the public will, responsive to their donors and alumni, responsive to their students, how is it that they can go so far so fast without any pushback? He says the answer is university endowments, which have grown incredibly large on the backs of subsidies from the taxpayer, and they have made these universities completely independent of any political, financial, or other pressure. And that is why the university system in this country is so insane. At Harvard, MIT, and Penn, the endowments are approaching $100 billion. It must stop. It must stop because it has enabled political insanity. It must stop because it has burdened an entire generation of Americans with over $1 trillion in student debt. Right now, they pay a tax that is less than 2% on their net income, far lower than any of the working class members of my own family, far lower than most Americans pay in taxes. At the very least, they should be at the capital gains tax rate, right? 913-408-7957, 913-408-7957. I want to welcome you into the conversation here on this, on how you fix this, especially if you're a parent who's recently sent your kid to college, about to do it, or maybe they're there right now. Because firing this Penn teacher is only a short-term and really a micro answer to a major problem. What do you do about the macro?